go. All right, it's 6 p.m., so we'll go ahead and get the work session started.
The first page should be your capital improvement funds. And so you'll see that there's 3 different ones listed on this front page. It says wastewater capital reserves. Then it jumps down to water capital reserves and then stormwater capital reserves. And by law, you're not really required to.
What page are you on?
Should be on that very first page, Pete, that I had laying there.
Yep, that one.
Yeah.
And what are you calling it?
It has at the very top, it says wastewater capital reserves, water capital reserves, and stormwater capital reserves.
Okay.
And so this is, like I said, it's not a requirement to have a budget document, but I've put it in here for transparency purposes of the different transfers that will be made into these accounts last year as well as this year and next year proposed. And these are coming from the respective funds. So from the wastewater capital reserve, the transfer is coming from the wastewater fund. And this is to set money aside so that it does not get used up in just your basic operations. Then we jump down and we have the water capital reserves and the stormwater capital reserves. As we go through the budget, you'll be able to look back and see that these are reflected in the budget as an expense. So I just wanted to show that there are funds available in your wastewater capital reserve. There's about $700,000 for this year and about $650,000 for next year for projects. Water, there's $443,000 this year, $200,000 for next year. And as we get into that, the water conversation, we'll talk about possible ARPA funding using that. And then stormwater capital reserves, there's $796,000 available, but we would have to do a budget amendment in order to use those funds. Or actually, it's not even a budgeted line item, so you wouldn't even have to do that. But until we identify projects, I did not have a true cost there yet. But you will have $796 available in 2021, and then an additional $100,000 the next year. Any questions on those?
So if you said we have 796 in 2021, and then 2022 says 776, you said we'll have an additional 100?
So you don't have 776 in 2021. You have a carryover if we don't use that 796. So if you look down at that bottom number where it says unencumbered cash balance, what we're projecting is 120,000 used this year, but we could use more. It's not tying us to only using 120,000. We can use more, but whatever you carry over to the next year is what you'll have to spend in the next year. So total available for this year is 796. If we use all of that this year, you only have 100,000 for next year.
Right, but okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Next page. Stormwater fund. Should say in the top left-hand corner, it'll say fund page for funds with no tax levy, and it says adopted budget stormwater. So when Earls was here and they presented to you, they were presenting a 3% increase. And so I built that into the budget document as well. I'm also showing how the debt service, when it would retire, it will retire in 2024. But the main thing to take away from the stormwater is, and we've talked about this in the past, and it's probably something that Mark and I can work on, or the new city manager once he gets here. But we do feel like that there needs to be an ordinance that really governs the stormwater fund rather than it being part of the sewer fund. That's one. The second thing would be a recommendation, and this also comes from Peter Earls, of a 3% continuous increase each year. So rather than having to revisit this every single year, you put that into your ordinance that there will be a 3% built in.
Well, that was a standard 3%, because a couple of the ordinances he showed us had related to the consumer price index, but this is just a flat 3%,
Just a flat,
regardless of whether.
yes, yeah. And you can do it however you want. I'm just making suggestions. So if you were to issue the $3 million in bonds that he was suggesting, you would definitely want to be sure that that's built into your ordinance, because you're going to have something for the rating of the bonds that shows the stability of the fund, and you would not have enough dollars in that fund to be able to pay off the debt service if you did not show that you were going to raise it every year. So that's one reasoning. The stormwater master plan shows that there's $15 million in projects that could be done in Fort Scott. So recommendations are to prioritize those in 2022 and determine how funding will be completed, and just do some long-term planning. And then there also needs to an internal audit of stormwater charges to customers. And so what that will detail is either going on a GIS map and looking at impervious area for every stormwater customer that we have, and just making sure that they're being charged appropriately, because I do think we have some that are not being charged appropriately. But that'll be an effort between codes and the utility department.
On stormwater, you feel like there's some that's not
Yeah.
charged accordingly.
Yes.
So you actually wouldn't make the decision to borrow the $3 million until
Next
next
year.
year.
Mhm.
So that's okay. We just need to prepare for it, possibly with the increases. That's what you're saying. So
Yeah.
we'll have it kind of a
Yeah.
stable baseline.
And so the next page shows you what a 3% looks like over the period of time. I just wanted to show the schedule and how it would change over each year with a 3% increase.
I guess I don't understand how you charge for stormwater when it's saying up to 3,001 to.
Square foot. So if they have like a parking lot or driveway or anything that's going to contribute to runoff, that's how it's
Okay.
determined.
Okay, that's what I say. I think probably any layman at home didn't understand
Yeah.
how that's charged, because that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you say $4.80, that's per month.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes sense. And you say, has it been increasing 3% every year?
Yeah. It has been pretty steadily. I don't think we increased it last year. But we know there's projects that need to be completed, and so we feel like, we need to continue with trying to maintain this. And like I said, I do feel like there needs to be an internal audit done of our utility.
So when you say internal audit, explain that to me. You're saying somebody goes out and starts measuring parking lots and see who's using the most stormwater and things like that?
I think we can do it on GIS mapping. So I will have to partner with the county on that one, but we will identify. It'd be pretty easy to identify like commercial users and say, ooh, that doesn't look quite right. And so we can kind of go through, we can kind of back into it a little bit. Most of your residential customers, which is, 2,200 customers, are going to be at that base.
Like, I'm just looking at numbers here, like 20,000 and up. That would, just for an example, let's say Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably be the extreme side of it for
Right.
storm sewer.
Yep.
For the $89 a month.
Yes, it would.
That's interesting. Moving on.
Okay. Any questions on the stormwater fund? It's pretty much what Earl's was proposing as well, except for they had $3 million built in that you would borrow in 2023. You could borrow in 2022, start payments in 2023.
Even without the borrowing, with projects coming up, we're going to have to finance them, right?
Yeah.
Whether you borrow
Somehow,
or not, so.
yeah. because they're large expenses when you start talking about, you know, locations.
Yeah.
And in that master plan, it identifies those for you. I think it'd be good. I think we're having Earls look those over, and so we just kind of partner with them to say, okay, where do you feel like we need to focus? I think they've already done that on some of these. Is that right, Mark?
I was at the engineering meeting 2 weeks ago. We have one coming up this Thursday where they presented 4 different projects that they're proposing that we do in the water area, and they are significant projects. I've been trying to find a copy of them for you to bring to the meeting. I don't have it. When I spoke to Jason on the phone from Earl's Engineering, he's going to have Mr. David Blessed help me. He's going to email that to me tomorrow. So I can send that out to all you folks if you want, or I can just send you a text message and say there's 4 projects. Project A is here for $180,000. Project B is here for $280,000. Project C is here for $400,000. Project D is here for $500,000.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, the good part is we already have a plan.
Yes.
You know, we don't have to start from scratch. We've already
Right.
got these things
Yes.
drawn up. They've been engineered.
No, they have not been.
They have
engineered.
not been engineered.
No,
They are
no engineering
preliminary
yet.
design,
Yeah.
conceptual design.
Because what was the one, Pete? Do you recall the one you were showing me that had all the?
It's a master plan.
Was that just the master plan?
Mhm.
The what?
Stormwater.
There were at least 4 that we haven't done.
Yeah, I'm saying they haven't been engineered yet.
Not by Earls. They were engineered when they did the plan. But
Preliminary.
But it's
Preliminary
conceptual.
Yeah, it's like a conceptual, like that's what I say. Yeah,
It's not like,
it's not
ready
plan
to go.
documents.
Right. Okay.
That's where Earls comes in with their numbers.
And then we do have a proposal on one of them, 17th and Eddie, that we can bring to the next meeting, but it's their proposal for their engineering services and the cost of the project. So,
And we will bring that to the meeting on the 7th.
so the next fund is the Wastewater Fund. So the next set of stapled documents, it says wastewater at the top left-hand corner. Again, this was also a proposal by Earls to do a 3% increase each year and have that in your rate structure as an ongoing increase. In addition, ADM contract is also up for renewal, and so we're looking at potentially a 2 to 3% increase with them. We've already had discussions with them, initial discussions, and I think they feel like that's fair because of the cost of operations has gone up about 2% every year. The other thing that we discussed the last meeting was an infrastructure maintenance fee. We had proposed $20, and we've now brought that down to $10. And so this just kind of gives you an idea of what it would cost for $10. And that is at the top, in the top section where it says revenue receipts. And it says infrastructure maintenance fee, and that would generate about $373,000 a year, based on the number of residents that we have that we're providing wastewater to.
I'm sorry, my mind was completely boggled and wandering. Tell me again how you started that conversation
Which one?
about the infrastructure reconstruction fee. Who's paying that?
Each customer would have a $10 surcharge on their bill every month, and that would help fund infrastructure projects.
Into perpetuity, or would it be for the 20-year time frame? Or
Right now, we have it built in for 20 years. And that's how you can have a positive cash flow.
yeah, this is not just ADM.
This is an infrastructure cost that would go on a person's utility bill,
Just a flat $10.
just a flat $10.
And at one time you talked about maybe carving ADM out.
Right now, we're very dependent on those dollars.
That's what I understand. Yeah.
And I think, for now, I think there's no way for us to pull it completely out and still operate. Otherwise, you would have a huge cost increase. So we just need to be thankful that we have that available. I think we need to try and wean ourselves off of it as much as we
And
possibly
that,
can.
that was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's not happening here.
No, it's not happening here. It's still budgeted. And then there's also an internal audit that needs to be done on customers outside of the city limits. We have several customers that I identified as I was putting the budget together that are potentially not paying the time and a half rate. And there are some that are not paying at all. And what that is these are special districts, and as they have changed hands and with properties, and this is really just an internal process that needs to be refined, is every year that we need to call over and see who the property owner is, or it needs to be a covenant on their deed so that they know that they are hooked into city sewer and they have to pay city sewer fees, because right now they're getting city sewer for free. And we've identified about 2 or 3. And so I'd like to really research that a little bit more too. Some of these that are outside the city limits or the industrial park, and it may benefit them more to annex in, but I'd like to show the comparison of them annexing in their property versus having to pay time and a half. And so there may be some benefit for straightening up our annexation in the industrial park. The next page shows what a 3% increase would look like for the next 20 years. And again, this is to have positive cash flows.
Have you ever thought about doing this in bigger print?
Sorry.
My gosh.
I mean, I can make this paper costs a lot more than that paper.
No, but there's
So-
one little bit line, and I can't. I mean, I can see it now that I got these readers on. But if I hadn't brought these tonight, I'd be upside down.
For
$150.
for 2022 through about 2024, there's estimated to have about $400,000 each year for rehab to our collection system. In 2026, we are looking at putting $800,000 into that system.
Did you
And
turn the
so-
page?
Yeah, this is Earl's.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to kind of point out that over the next 4 or 5 years, as debt starts to roll off, we're going to be able to start putting more money into the rehab of our system.
And in that 1 year, you go into a negative balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I tried to look at it.
And that could change. I mean, you could make that so that it's not a negative balance. You can do, $750,000 in improvements that year.
Is there a reason why on stormwater we looked out for going out for a loan over 20 years and not on wastewater for infrastructure improvements?
Part of it, I mean, I think you could do either. If you wanted to get all your projects done in 1 year. I just hate paying the interest, when we know that. I don't know, what are we going to, I guess the question is are we going to build a department that's doing a lot of this work ourselves, or are we going to outsource it? If we outsource, as I say, you go ahead and borrow the money and get the project done.
I will say, even, I know you don't like paying the interest, but cost of doing
Yeah.
business will increase each
Today,
year.
yeah, versus tomorrow. I get it. But again, it really comes down to, are we going to have crews doing it, or are we going to be having a company come in and do the work?
Yeah, ideally, we'd love to have our own crews doing it because we could save a ton of money. But
Yep.
like I said, we're kind of in a transition right now, trying to restructure everything and having, going through the times that we are just in America alone trying to find help. So it's going to be quite difficult to put a crew together. But I still think it could be accomplished. We just got to, like we talked about, raising our starting wages and operator wages and things like that. So I think it could be done.
And these aren't even, this doesn't include the capital reserve funds also, right?
Right. Right.
So I don't know how to ask this question, but as you borrow and going forward, there's a point where you're, to pay off the debt is going to start to decrease your ability to meet any other needs. Is there a way
Yes.
to calculate where that crosses or where it becomes a problem or issue?
It just depends on it really depends on if you're going to be consistent when doing an increase every year. I mean, that we're showing that this is sustainable, for 20 years if you adopt this type of process. Josh, I want to go back to your comment. What this is this transfers these dollars into your capital improvement fund. If you look at it, it says transfers, and then it says where are they going, and it says wastewater project. So those 400,000 actually gets transferred over to those funds. So anything left over at the end of the year would continue to stay in a capital improvement fund for the next year. Questions? The next fund is the water utility fund. It's a little more difficult. We had talked about restructuring. We have a declining rate structure currently today. And we've talked about restructuring to make sure that, if you're using more water, you're paying for that water that you're using at a little bit higher rate. And for some customers, that was going to, some of our high-end users, that was going to cause them to almost pay double what they're paying. For one customer, they called me and they said, if you do this, it will go from $20,000 a month to $40,000 a month. And so I went back and recalculated to see how we could maybe work into this a little bit slower rather than doing it all in 1 year. What is proposed in this budget is a 5% increase on the base, and that covers the additional debt service that we're going to have because of the river intake project, as well as just our continual 3% increase. What also happens, if you look down towards the bottom of that page, it shows you when we have debt rolling off. And in 24, 25, we've got some major debt rolling off in this fund. So, once we get to 24 and 25, I think we're going to have more money, more liquid cash to work with to fund some bigger projects. And it's most likely going to take us a little bit of time to put together a water plan. And I think that's what we're doing right now with Earl's Engineering is looking at our water lines and putting together some kind of a master plan. In 2022, we have some debt rolling off that will help with the temporary notes that are be rolling off and rolling into a GO bond, and that's for the river intake project. So it is, but it's still a bond. Yeah, that's how they develop them, is into a GO bond. And so the next there is also a $250,000 transfer to the general fund for 21 and 22 scheduled in here, as well as $200,000 transferred into capital reserves for ongoing projects. I think if we define some projects for next year and the following year, we can use some of our ARPA funding, which also helps support water projects. I think that's a very good use of those funds, but first we have to identify some of those projects. I do know we have one project that is significant to feed to the east side of town that we need to get some estimates on what that's going to cost and possibly look at either borrowing for that or using some of our ARPA funding for that. It's a significant project. One thing that from the Earl's presentation, I do feel like would be beneficial is if you turn to this next page, this shows you the meters, how many meters over a 12-month period are 1 inch. So if you take that 1814 divided by 12, that tells you how many meters per month that we're servicing 1 inch meters. And so based off their recommendations, they're saying that if you have a 1 inch a 2-inch, a 3-inch, or 4-inch, you're going to have a different base rate. And so if we were to take their recommendations, we could generate $81,000 more per year. And I think that makes sense because a 4-inch meter costs a whole heck of a lot more to put in than a 1-inch meter or a 5/8 inch. 5/8. And 5/8 is what most of your residential customers are on. And so I would recommend adopting at the very least that piece of the rate structure, and then look at how do we, over the next 3 to 4 years, put together a plan that we get these customers, our high-end users, up to a more level playing field, so that the more water you use, you actually have to pay for that, rather than it being a declining rate structure.
So it says count of account number.
Mm-hmm.
You telling me there's 39,000 water meters in Fort Scott?
No, I'm telling you, if you take 39,201 divided by 12.
Okay.
Are you just talking about a 5% raise next year?
5% raise on the base, and then adopt their base schedule based on the meter size.
So that comes up to 3,200. So there's only
Yeah.
3,200 water meters?
Yep.
Probably
it.
there's only 6,000 some people in Fort Scott, so
I would have thought there would have been more than that.
it's an average of 2 people per house.
Thank you, Josh, for that.
I wouldn't.
I could do that math. I couldn't do the other. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying the 5/8 meter you're going to leave it the same, but as the
We'll do a 5% raise or 5% increase, so it goes from 1317 to 1385.
well,
Yeah,
the 4-inch.
And I've talked to you about this. What I like to see is kind of what Earl's did on the step ups. I'd like to do a 3% increase on the 0 to 1,500, and then the 1,500 to 36,000, and then a 6% increase up to 75, and then a 15% increase above that for the next 4 years. And then after that, everyone goes to a 3% raise, and it gets them. There's no more declining rate structure. It puts everyone on the same playing field over the next 4 years.
Okay, so you're saying the 1,500 to 36,000 do how much?
So basically, the first 2 steps, 3%.
3%. Okay.
And then a 6% on the 3rd step, and
Okay.
a 15% on the 4th step. And I think I did it right. And over 4 years, they'll all be back on the even rate structure.
Am I reading this right when it says rate? And I'm trying to figure out how this works. The 5/8 is 1385. That's what it'll raise to. And if you have a 4-inch water line, it's gonna. Is that per month?
145 4-inch water meter.
Right, water meter per month.
$145. Yes, that's their base. Because a 4-inch water meter costs a whole lot more than a 5/8. And
I think you said there was 1 or 2 in town.
yeah, there's not very many 4 inches.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm just there again. I'm wondering who this is, because is this gonna cripple their business? You know, raising it to $145 times 12 rather than they're used to paying $13 times 12. That's a significant. I don't know the percentage on that, but that's several 100% raise. And I know if I was one of those 4-inch meters for some ungodly reason, I don't know. I mean, I may be one of them for all I know. But I hope not.
It's a bigger business. I can tell you that. A lot bigger business.
I just don't know. That's significant. I mean, I think we're going to definitely hear about it by making that big of a jump. The others look good. I mean, the others are the 2-inch raise, and it's 32. I don't think we'll, I don't know. That's my thought.
I mean, I guess if you get us a list of 3-inch and 4-inch people that
Okay.
use it at some point. I don't know. I would
like that. And I couldn't understand. You were talking so fast on your structure thing. I'll have to look at that when you're.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's just basically the residential water rate, the people that use not very much are going to just be a 3% and not a 5%. And the bigger businesses, Because ultimately, going forward, that's what is going to be asked anyways, right? I mean, I'm assuming the goal is to get everyone not on the declining rate structure.
Mhm.
So whether we do it this year or next year, it's something that's going to be presented
Every year until we can get there.
until,
Because you're not going to have enough funding to really start
Right.
supporting your system.
and we're not, I
if
mean,
you-
and the 5% across the board doesn't help us bridge that gap on the
Right.
declining rate structure.
Right.
And so I was just trying to propose something that helped bridge that gap on a declining rate structure, where the people that use the top water users aren't getting a break as much, because I think all the towns around are went away from that
Yeah.
10 years, 15 years ago.
Yeah, they're not using that structure anymore.
So, yeah. And so that's all I would suggest. But I mean, I know that I don't think that affects your budget number, because if anything, I think that increases the
Yeah, it
numbers
increases
more.
it. Yeah.
And so,
But yeah, no.
so I don't think
And
it
I
affects
honestly
it.
haven't built in that $81,000 into this budget either. So, if you choose not to go to that, we can use 2022 to really look over this and decide what we want to do. But we're getting down to a point that I need to finish putting the budget together. If we're going to have a budget hearing on September 7th, I have to have it published by Saturday. If you want to push it off till the 21st of September, which we could, then that gives us more time to meet again to review this.
How do we push it off?
How do you push it off?
Uh-huh.
You basically just tell me that you're not ready to adopt what's presented, and
And the state doesn't come get us.
no, we've got till October 1st.
Are you ready to publish?
Yeah, I'm ready to go on vacation. The what?
So Josh, I didn't hear your numbers, but what you're talking about is a graduated increase in the various degrees for a couple of years until basically in 2030 you'd be back up to the 810 and all the categories. Is that what you just?
No, I think he's
in-
more the 621, right? Are you looking more at that?
What'd you say?
621.
$6.21.
$6.21.
Oh, I don't have the base rates in front of me.
Is that what you're trying to get to, though? Is that?
I'm just getting to, so by year 4, 25,
Mm-hmm.
everyone would be at the 698. So by year 4, year 5, after 4 years, everyone would be on that same number.
And I didn't hear your percentages and probably aren't quick enough tonight to understand them, but so that will not impact your budget or your projections in terms of reserves and ability to.
No, because I didn't schedule these in.
Oh, you
No,
didn't?
I didn't schedule it in for this year. No.
Yeah, but you gave us some long-term projections about the borrowing and budget going forward for the next 10 or 12 years.
Not on this one.
Okay, not
Yeah.
on this
And
one.
I don't
not
think
on
the
rest
I
of
don't
it.
think
Okay,
the numbers I
gotcha.
projected would make her numbers come in lower. I think if anything, it'd come in higher.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
I'm just,
Right now, I based it on a 5% increase in revenue just on the base, and so I haven't included anything that I haven't included this meter charge change or anything like that. It's truly just on the base. I just wanted to show what it would, if we adopted what they had recommended, it could generate $81,000 more a year.
okay, but on the engineer's sheet,
Mm-hmm.
it's not your budget, I guess, but you're
Mm-mm.
projecting numbers going forward for the next 20 years. And we're going to have large water projects coming up rapidly. So,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm not against what Josh is saying. Don't misunderstand. I just want to be sure that.
Yeah, it would
I've
throw this out.
understood it. So
it
if-
throws this out the window because you won't have that capital available.
That's my question. So
Mhm.
it's going to make a difference in your borrowing capabilities and in your ability to complete the projects if you don't.
Adopt what they're asking. Yes.
Yeah. So in that sense, it does change some of your budget projections, not the budget this year, but.
In about year 2025, however, look at 2026, you've got $480,000 rolling off of your debt service in 2026. So that money will become available for projects.
I mean, if you're asking, I mean, just based off mine, Randy,
I'm
over
sorry, Josh, say again, please.
the difference between what they presented, because I think they just presented a one-time increase next year.
Yeah,
Um,
all at once.
I mean, my if you know, if you just ask my opinion would be use some ARPA funds for the next 2 years to offset those smaller increases.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then by 2024, we're all back, and so the ARPA funds would offset the smaller increments.
Right.
But
Yeah, and again, I don't misunderstand. I'm just trying to understand this. So moving forward, we don't get in a position where we're anticipating doing this project and then suddenly say, oh, crumb, we didn't have it. So
Yeah.
good by me. Good, thank
Yeah.
you.
The best part about that plan is we probably won't be here to be blamed for it by then too. So slowly but surely.
Not necessarily to that point, but I think that there should be some sort of communications plan
Sure.
for the major businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
they could get a better understanding of how this is going to affect them. If I was still a business owner and had the water usage that I used to have, I would certainly want to know ahead of time and have somehow additional conversation to be able to understand the rationale.
Absolutely. I think in Josh's plan, I think that gives him some time to put a plan together. And if we could, would it be okay to put something on the water bill explaining how these rates are going to change?
I don't have enough room on the water bill to do that, but we could send out letters, mainly to our commercial users.
Yeah. If you send out
that's who it's
letters
gonna
to the
affect.
commercial users and then maybe some sort of e-blast or whatever, however we could communicate with the public to let them know, hey, your water rate is going to continually, because I mean, homeowners need to prepare too. If somebody's
Yes.
living on a fixed income and
But to Pete's point, and I guess to the citizens' point, if you can explain to me the rationale and the reasons and the justification, we have much infrastructure needs in the water area.
yeah, I think
So-
that's where that 5-year plan comes in.
Yeah.
We need that.
Mm-hmm. And I know they're working on that.
So the people to understand it, I'm calling it a marketing campaign, but more of an information campaign to get the information out there.
right.
Well, when you're talking about water, I mean, we've seen it over the last 20 years with towns across the country. I mean, that's, Pete pointed out a few water lines in town that are scary to drink from, honestly. So,
Yeah, if you've seen, we had very vivid pictures of some of those water lines that we replaced, and they're terrible. I mean, there's so much growth in them that they're almost growth shut in
Supply water?
supply. Absolutely.
So does everybody feel like that Josh's recommendation?
yeah,
Because that's what I'll have to bring it back in an ordinance form.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't know if you need to do that right now because I don't know if
Well, it'll affect my numbers. I mean, I wouldn't have to in this budget document because I've got it covered, but I think it would be good to have, because you're going to have to at least have some notice before the end of the year because your rates start over in January. And that's when we would like for them to start over.
Well, and you need to know the numbers that are going to be available for project planning too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to do some in-depth. I'll have to pull that out by customer and do calculations based that way.
But you don't need to know this tonight in order to publish by the 28th.
I do not. How does everybody feel about ordinances that basically locks in on your stormwater and your wastewater the 3%? Basically, it's just a reoccurring thing that happens every year rather than having to revisit it every year.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't because why would you not include water in that?
We can, but if you're going to be over the next few years,
Right.
you would want to say, okay, so for
I just know in
year
the past,
blah, 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 blah,
over the last
blah.
20 years when I was looking
Yeah.
through it, there was a couple 20%,
Yeah.
30% increases. And I think this would help alleviate that. I mean, sure, people are gonna be upset raising rates, but it's consistent about every 10 years they've had to do a 20-30% increase
Yes.
to cover up for the other commissioners not wanting to increase slowly.
I agree. So, I'll put those together. It probably won't come to this next meeting, but the next meeting we'll put some ordinances together that kind of shows that, and then I'll show this 4-year plan that you presented to Josh, and then the 3% thereafter.
And when you look at the cost of goods, the cost of
Right.
labor, I mean, all that goes into this projects and all the projects. Just putting in 3%, I think, is an extremely realistic number.
Mhm.
So one other, yes, thank you. Didn't mean to ignore that statement, but my mind was wandering. So if we, again, and this is a hypothetical, but we are anticipating government monies coming forward on the infrastructure bills. I think everybody thinks that's going to happen. Does this position us okay to get that money?
Do you have matching funds? Is that what you're talking about?
Is it going to? Does anybody know? Is it going to be a matching fund or?
I haven't seen a whole lot on it.
I haven't either. Well, I don't think they know, but
Yeah.
okay.
So it's difficult to say. I think on your wastewater projects, absolutely. Wastewater, stormwater, you've got some water. I mean, you've got $400,000 to $600,000 that could be matching funds.
Okay.
Which brings me to cost share is open again and due in September. Thinking about going after Horton again. This time we'll get KDOT involved. And so that way there's somebody at the table from KDOT that understands our needs. And we'll ask them what we need to do in our narrative to make it a stronger presentation.
Good.
So.
And I know
And
I've asked
that
this a few times, the sewer and water lines over there, have they even started
Looking at
engineering or whatever needs to be done to?
I don't think that was on anybody's radar, so that probably needs to be something that's talked about, discussed tomorrow with our engineers. Yeah, Thursday. Sorry, Thursday. Right. And we always plan that. If we know that there's going to be streets taken up and we know that there's water and sewer lines that need to be addressed, we take care of it. It may not even need to be engineered unless
I was going to say, I don't know about always done it, because that's what we ran into on Andrew. We were getting ready to put pavement over it and still had old water lines and stuff in there until we put the brakes on. So
that was before I got here.
right.
What, wasn't there a project that the city was doing to scope everything so they'd have pictures, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, we got some.
Yep, we just did
Is
that.
that minimal
sewer.
scoping or everything? Just sewer?
Mhm.
Okay.
I
Yep.
think it was only 20% of the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that.
We do have that done though.
Did we purchase the camera?
Yes, camera van and camera. There was a proposal from the engineer that was like $600,000 to do just a one-time quick view, and I said, I don't think we'll be up for that. So
No, not when we can buy the equipment and start it on our own.
yeah, it's going to take longer, but that's why we bought the equipment.
Right,
It's
right.
going to take us a while to fix them all.
Yeah.
So I think.
Well,
Yeah.
and the bad part is we had a camera, we had all kinds of that stuff, and we just let it get old rather than updating it and keep it going. So I hope we get on a program to where we update this equipment so we don't have to purchase it again.
Mhm.
You know.
Any other questions?
So, well,
Go ahead.
on this,
Fire
no,
away.
not on this.
Okay.
Can we back up to our last budget session?
Sure can.
Okay, I'm pleading again.
I don't have
so
I don't have any of that
You
information in front of me.
you don't need it. You don't
Okay.
need it at all. My point is, last time we talked about, are we going to drop the mill levy, or are we going to try to stay where we are? And I don't think I expressed myself very clearly, so I want to try again. I think that, and again, I will say I don't think government ought to be dictating everything. But I think we should stay where we are in our mill levy, because to me, the drop is not significant to the individual taxpayer. And quite frankly, at this point, we have multiple needs. To Josh's point, you know, I think that we grow our way out of this, and we have to do that. But the difference between the proposed amount at $446,900 versus what we have is only about $30,000, I think. I don't have the round numbers, but you can help me with that. But we got a bunch of needs that they could be used for. I mentioned the neighborhood revitalization program, which I realize we don't pay for, but it is a reduction to us in the amount of taxes that we receive. So it could be used as part of balancing that out. You know, we're kind of short on help. I think Mark has identified that actually we probably need a person here that can help coordinate some efforts in terms of the citizen advisory committees, the land bank, some community development. I don't know what all you've seen. Money could be used for that. You mentioned last time, I think our equipment fund you felt was a little short for this next year, so it could be used there. I was looking through, and again, I'm not, have we started a reserve for the roach?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see it. But
I pulled that out last year, so it's got a pretty healthy.
Okay, and I know we've got some budget, but even the Memorial Hall steps. So my point is, I think that the 30,000 could be used effectively and to move the community forward, and it's a more effective use of our money than reducing it this time and each taxpayer, you know, saving, I don't know, $2 to $5 a month. So I know you got to publish. That's why I throw that out, trying to see where people stand with that thought process.
Well, in my defense,
Not your defense. I don't want to hear you.
to me, it's the same thing with like the water structure. You know, I really think we could have cut 3 or 4 mills this year. And I don't think we had a problem doing it. We could have. I feel like this, if we can do a little bit, at least stay revenue neutral every year. It's the same thing instead of increasing the water rate 15% one year. So next year, another mill. Like you said, it's not a bunch of money, but, and since Mark ran McDonald's, Mark would run a sale on hamburgers. Is he making any money on hamburgers? No. But people come to town and spend money on other things. And to me, the $30,000 brings in different money. Over time, less people will leave. One of the biggest complaints is taxes, streets and taxes. Have people left town because of high taxes? I would say so. So a little bit over the next 4 or 5 years, if we can stop that, it will bring in new money, people building, neighborhood revitalization. You know, if they have an 8-year abatement and then they think, you know, in 8 years, taxes will probably stay flat or go lower, we're going to go ahead and build here because we have 8 years of zero taxes. And then they've shown they can at least stay revenue neutral. So more people build here. And so that's what I'm basing off just a little bit.
Yeah,
and
and
increase is.
I hear you. I just guess I see that money can be used effectively to make us more effective, more efficient, and try to generate more for our tax base. I'm great in favor of the neighborhood revitalization program. I think it's a wonderful program. But if we can offset some of our I'll call it costs for doing that, and find ways to help move us forward to generate more income, so that then we can have more significant, in the long run, tax relief. That's kind of where I am.
Well, it's kind of like increasing the water 3% every year. If we don't start decreasing the taxes by a little bit, then we're going to be the highest forever. You know, so
Well,
I think it's
not necessarily. Not if you can use that money effectively to which the other thing I mentioned, I'm not at all confident about our economic development number at 65,000 a year. That just doesn't seem like very much to me. And in fact, you have to straighten me out. We have in the past had a downtown program that we help finance, and there's no monies for it. You have to tell me. So that's also monies that could be used in businesses in the community to help them to build and to grow and to increase their tax structure and their.
I will say that in the budget, I remember seeing $20,000 for downtown. There was a line item there was money this year.
Yeah,
there wasn't last year.
There's a $20,000 economic development line item, I think.
Yeah, and like your fireworks and stuff come out of that.
And we also have a $500,000 that's going to economic development as
so
well.
you have there's about $85,000 to $90,000 a year that you'll be able to spend on economic development.
Well, and I saw, but 65 of that you were budgeting, thinking that was going to be our cost for being part of Ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering what other expenses we have besides joining Ready for 65,000. And I know there's another budget item anticipating, I guess, the sale of the building out
Mhm.
south. But that's kind of counting our chickens before eggs hatch, or whatever that saying is. So,
Yeah, I have to put it in the budget though, so we have the budget authority to spend.
yeah, well, I'm not questioning it had to be in there. I'm just saying, I just see that way. Okay, people do what they need to do, and we can't really make a decision, but you need.
I need direction.
Well,
At least,
unfortunately, we can't vote on it.
Yeah.
You just have to talk about it.
No,
So-
but I
and
mean,
I can
think-
I can delay and not publish this week.
Yeah, I mean, and on your opinion, I would hope that Lindsay, Kevin, and Pete give their opinion on the mill decrease. I mean, I don't really know how Kevin or anyone else feels about it, so.
I'm good with it. I think it's a good idea.
I'd say publish.
You say what?
Publish.
Publish it. Is Lindsay here? Oh. I know she's not here, but is she on the microphone or something?
No.
She says go for it.
Well, I don't think she was asking for it.
No, she didn't say that.
You snooze, you lose.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. Yes, we'll call it a night.
Okay.